Welcome to ETHDam, to ETHDam, to ETHDam, to ETHDam, to ETHDam.
Hi everyone. Oh, it's very hard to see in this room. So Startnet just presented how they're planning to scale up on Ethereum, and I'm here to present how Ethereum is going to scale to allow Startnet and other rollups to indeed onboard this 1 billion users. I'm Julian. I'm a researcher at the ETH. I've been mostly focused on economic problems up until now, so working on MEV and proposer-builder separation and topics like these. But now I've switched over to doing scaling, so working on layer 1 scaling and scaling the amount of blobs that we can provide. I'm not here to talk so much about what I've done myself, but it's more of an overview of what the entire ETH research team is doing. To get everyone like a feel of what we want to achieve. So the main two goals are, I'm not sure if I'm in front of the slides here. The main two goals are 100x the L1 gas limit. So currently it's at 36 million, and we want to do this 100x in 4 years. And we want to go to 128 blobs as the medium-term scaling target for the amount of blobs. I'm not sure if everyone is aware, but blobs are the data that Ethereum provides to L2 so that they can post their data. So you can see it as just like extra room for layer 2 specifically. And so providing more blobs means that more layer 2s can settle on Ethereum and they can settle more data. So to achieve this 100x in 4 years and getting to the 128 blobs, we have a rough fork planning in mind. It starts with Fusaka. So we had Pectra, which is a hard fork that launched last week. So now Fusaka is the next fork. It's hoped to schedule around the end of 2025. And the main feature in there is peer data availability sampling, or peer DAS. And what that does is it increases the blobs quite big. So in Petra, we went to 9 blobs, and with peer data availability sampling, we could hopefully go to 48 blobs, depending on testing somewhat. The idea here is that these blobs contain a lot of data. That's all the testers need to download. But in this next upgrade with peer data availability sampling, we do sampling. So not all the testers download all data. They only download parts of the data, meaning that in aggregate, if you only download parts, you can download more parts, and so we can go to more blobs. Then after Fusaka, we have the Amsterdam fork, and that fork will focus on the scaling layer 1. So I'll go into a bit of what the upgrades are that we're expecting here, but we're expecting about a 10x increase in the gas limit. And then post-Amsterdam, we'll focus on some more data availability sampling improvements and layer 1 improvements. And so you can see that in peer DAS, we go up to 48 blobs. So to go to the 128 targets, we need to 3x. And since we go with the L1 scaling 10x in Amsterdam, we need to do another 10x after Amsterdam. So just to recap, the core problem with scaling is the following, basically. A builder builds a block, and it sends it to all of the testers, or your validator that you might run at home. The problem with this is that the validator needs to do all of the work that the block builder has done. It needs to re-execute, it needs to store all of the state that's been accessed, and it needs to download all of the data. And this limits how big the block can be, because you can imagine that your home validator can't do that much execution, it can't store that much data, and it can't download that much in a short period of time. And so the key challenge to making bigger blocks is limiting the amount of work that the testers need to do that builders have already done, basically. And so here we're trying to leverage some sort of asymmetry. Ensure that the builder does some work that the testers don't have to do. This data availability sampling is one example of it, where the builder needs to upload all of the data, but the testers don't have to download all of the data. Instead, they only download parts, and in aggregate, everyone ensures that all of the data is available. But we're moving this to other factors as well. So for example, computation, we're trying to move away from the attester. Storing the states, we're trying to move away from the attester, so that the attesters are left with only focusing on the consensus that they need to achieve, instead of doing all of the extra tasks that they're tasked with today. So how do we scale these blobs while keeping solo stakers alive? Well, there are 3 main trends, and I'd say it's like efficient research usage, leveraging the asymmetry between builder and the tester, and reducing how much we rely on builders for the Ethereum network. So first of all, the efficient resource usage. One of the things that I'm personally working on now is ensuring that we use all of the resources that Ethereum has throughout the slot entirely. So I mentioned that testers, they need to do all of the work that builders have done, but this is mostly in the beginning part of the slot. So the builder sends its block, the attester needs to download all of the data, and it needs to re-execute the block, update its storage and everything. But it has to do so before it casts its vote, and then its vote is processed and you come to consensus. And so that means that in the first part of the slot, validators are really burdened by the amount of data that they need to download, and by the amount of computation that they need to do. And so we're trying to make this a bit more asynchronous in that setting. So what an idea here is that we allow testers to come to consensus on data without having to execute it just yet. So this is called delayed execution. And that means that we can do the computation during the entire part of the slot instead of having it very heavily in the beginning. And then the bandwidth part is another part that we want to work on. And we want to have that the testers download blobs earlier, basically. So I would say the exact specifics don't matter too much, but we want to make sure that basically the bar is completely flat over the entire slot duration. And so now it's very intense in the first 4 seconds of the slot and not so intense in the last 8. And so if we do get this like better spreading out of resources, we could do a 3x in blobs. And so you go from the 48 to the 128 blobs, which is nice. And we could do about a 10x in computation with delayed execution. So then there are some other works that we're doing. So we're doing some opco repricing. There was a talk here earlier, I think it was by Jose, who talked about gas units and how operations are priced and how much gas they spend. And we see that now these gas units aren't priced like exactly as we want them to. So we'll do some repricing here, which gets us a little bit of scaling. And then we have some execution hints and multidimensional pricing. I won't go into this for time reasons, but we can go into it more later. So then the leveraging the asymmetry is the other way how we get the other 10x post Amsterdam. So the intuition here is that the builder now creates a proof of the block. So it doesn't send the block anymore exactly to a testers, it sends it some other way, but it makes a proof of it, similar to, I guess, how ZK rollups work. And the attesters then only verify that this proof is correct. And we see there's a lot of work happening on this now. And so today, there are ZK provers that are proving Ethereum blocks, and they're doing so very cheaply, so 11 cents per block, for example, but they're taking a bit too much time for it now. So they're taking about 4 minutes, and we need them to go to 12 seconds. But the improvements here are really fast. So we're hoping to get at least some sort of tests running at the end of this year, and then post Amsterdam go like fully leverage this asymmetry with ZKVMs. Then how we want to reduce our reliance on builders is via inclusion lists. So if these builders take up larger roles in the ecosystem and they need to produce bigger blocks, then you might expect that this is difficult. And so we don't want them to be like the central source of centralization that can censor any transaction. And so what we do there is we allow others, so your home staker node, for example, to make a list of transactions that must be included in the block. So all you do is you select some transactions that you see in the mempool, transaction A, B, C, for example, and other people select other transactions. These inclusion lists are propagated over the network. The builder sees them. He must include all transactions. And if the builder doesn't, then the attesters won't vote for the block. So if the builder doesn't adhere to the inclusion lists and censors transactions, its block won't become canonical. So by like an evolutionary game theory argument there, builders will be self-selected to be non-censoring in that sense. And then as a bonus for some of the privacy-oriented people here in the audience, we want to go to a more private inclusion list design. And so what we have now is we have an ERP live that's being implemented, although it still has to be voted into some fork at some point for inclusion lists. And it allows 16 people, 16 of these home stakers to make inclusion lists. But today you could see like who these people are that make their inclusion list. And so, for example, if you're including a transaction that might be controversial in the jurisdiction where you live, you might not want to do that. So one of the things that we're thinking about is making this private, and this project is called ZK Fossil for if you're interested. So what it does is it leverages a linkable ring signature scheme where these 16 people that make their inclusion list have some plausible deniability of which inclusion list they made. So we select a large set of people, and a subset of these are allowed to make their inclusion list. But you can never link who made which inclusion list to some person. And that gives you some deniability that you weren't the one who included, for example, a controversial transaction, but still allowing you to, for example, include your own transactions if necessary. And so the core property that we're going for here is anonymity upon reveal. And so just to reiterate, our scaling goals are 100xing the L1 gas limits in 4 years and going to 128 blobs. And something that I'm personally quite in favor of, but that's more speculative and still needs to be discussed, I guess, is doing this via a smooth scaling curve. So if you're an application and you're considering where to launch, it might be difficult to rely on like hard fork timelines that aren't set in stone. So Dankad proposed this EIP. That's a more smooth scale. And so it says today we're at 36 million gas, and in 4 years we want to go to 100x. And he says that at every epoch there's some increase in gas, so that you as an application developer know, okay, if I launch in a year, this is the amount of gas that's available. And if my application does very well, then Ethereum L1 scales with me at this cadence. Right, so that's all I had. So if you have any questions, I'd love to take them.
Perfect. Thanks, Julian. So question time. We do have time for probably 1 or 2 questions. Perfect.
So post-Amsterdam, let's say we enabled ZK to, make the builder-related stuff much more faster. Then how much do we trust ZKVMs in terms of having or not having soundness bugs or etc.? Is there any fallback for that?
Yeah. So does this work? Yeah. So the current strategy is relying on diversity. So what we could do is that we require the builder to make proofs in, for example, 3 or let's say whatever number of ZKVMs. And so it's a classic like security liveness trade-off. You need to make proofs in a lot of ZKVMs, assuming that the bugs are somewhat uncorrelated. You'd expect security, but yeah, then you have the liveness trade-off relying on multiple ZKVMs.
Cool. We probably have time for 1 more question. If anyone has any questions? No? Okay. Thank you so much, Julian. You'll be roaming around for the day, so